This is Frederick Watts.
This is Jean Watts.
And
this is Love in 60 Seconds.
We have been married for over 20 years.
And in that time, we have learned a few things that we'd like to share with you.
So if you're single, newlyweds, or seasoned in marriage, we think you will enjoy the upcoming program.
Absolutely. And we want you to like, engage, share, and do all of those wonderful things that we do on Instagram, Facebook, and every other social media outlets. Send us DMs. We want to hear from you.
This is
Love
in 60 Seconds.
60 seconds. Love in 60. Love in 60 seconds. 60 seconds.
Hello, everybody. It's Frederick and Jean Watts. Good evening. How are you this evening? We hope that you are well.
Yes.
Hey, sweetheart.
Hey, how you
So
doing?
we're waiting there for everybody to come on in. This is 11 60 seconds tonight, September 28th. We got our sound. Hopefully everybody's hearing us.
Yep.
Look forward to chatting with you guys. We're going to got a good topic tonight. We're going to talk about why you treat me so bad, right?
You know, like that song, Why You Treat Me So Bad, Why You Do the Things You Do. But anyways, that's an old song. Most of y'all probably don't even know that, but anyways.
Yeah. We appreciate you guys joining us and supporting us. And while we're waiting for people to join, please share this with all your friends.
Yeah.
And if you're watching it with us live, please comment with us and chat with us tonight. We'll answer questions while we're talking.
Yep.
And then if not, if you're watching it later, definitely share and like and give us hearts and all that so we know that you're there. Always, this is one of our many lessons that we've been on for. So you can follow us always on Instagram at WhatsApp Entertainment, here on Facebook at WhatsApp Entertainment, and also on YouTube at WhatsApp Video, where you can watch any of our previous chat sessions.
Yep. So listen, are you the mean spouse? Are you the mean one in the group? Are you the sour patch? Are you the one that is the person that is most the word that they use now? Are you the toxic person? Are you the person that brings the toxicity to the relationship? I want to say every relationship has a little bit of, I won't say toxic, but I'll say some acidity, citrus. You got a little something every now and then. Yeah, a little something. Every relationship has a little bit every now and then. It doesn't have to be a consistent thing. I don't think we have that consistently. But there's times when we have a little bit of it, get a little sour, a little kick to it, and then, you let it go. So are you the person, though, that consistently brings that to the relationship? I'm going to help you try to identify those things and then give you some tips on how to kind of turn the tide. I guess we're going to talk about 9 signs that you are a mean person, that you're a toxic person. And
definitely. And just want to say hi to everybody that's signing in. We see Kenyatta and we see Cassandra. We appreciate it. Somebody said that don't be a garbage pail kid.
Don't be a garbage pail kid.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're not going to be long tonight. I just came from another part of the world.
So he's tired.
A little tired.
And I had a long day today, so I'm tired too. But we want to share with you tonight. We want to help you maybe get over this hump, because sometimes people do have seasons in their relationships where either their spouse is very mean, just not engaging, just not cool to be around, or you're the mean person. There's been times I don't know, I might have been the mean person at sometimes. I don't know. You probably would have to know that better than me, but
everybody, whether you're in a marriage, relationship, mother, father, you're always going to have times when you have a bad day.
True.
And what we are talking about tonight and as coaches is when we see that is not to be consistent.
Absolutely.
Not to be a part of your relationship that is something that you experience over and over. And if you are experiencing those things, or if maybe you don't even know it, if your spouse brings it to your attention that they feel that you're making them feel that way, then you should address it.
Yep. And so I'm going to give you some tips to identify in yourself and perhaps in your spouse. We don't want to be pointing fingers, but we want you to be able to make some identifying circumstances and be able to point things out so that you can remedy those things. So the first thing to know if you're bringing toxicity to your relationship or you're being a mean person. A mean person is usually a very self-centered person. They don't really care about what other people are feeling. So if you're self-centered, everything is pretty much about you. It's about how you feel, about what you're doing. You're being selfish. If you're being selfish or self-centered, that's a sign that you bring some toxicity to the relationship. I don't know. What do you have to say?
No, that's perfect. We have this joke about when we're serving in ministry and we talk about, giving honor to God, but when we
glory
pull
to
it
God.
back because it's all about
Glory
me.
to me. Yes.
So if you're not glorifying your spouse daily and you start pointing your fingers back at me, you're glorifying yourself because you're being self-centered.
You're being selfish.
And yeah, that's selfish and self-centered.
Absolutely.
And what that's going to cause in relationship is going to cause your spouse, it's going to cause the person that you're trying to have that relationship with to either draw away or not, or be turned off by it.
Absolutely.
And so you don't want that to keep building. And a lot of times the main issue with that is making sure that you communicate, that if you are feeling that way, that you let your spouse know that you are feeling that way. And then communication also, being able to receive it. Hey, if somebody is giving you a critique in love, especially as a person that you love the most, you should be able to take that critique and do a self-check.
Absolutely. And you have to watch selfishness. And so the Bible speaks about it in so many different ways. It talks about preferring others over ourselves. And, certainly, it is not an advocate for being selfish, but selfishness, you got to watch it because selfishness is very self-serving, and that's not love. When you're self-serving, you will find that self-serving behavior leads to other bad behavior. It leads to when you're self-centered, it'll lead to other bad behavior because it'll try to make you justify why you're making these bad choices. Well, I'm doing what I'm doing because he did that, or I'm doing what I'm doing because she did that. Yeah, no, God is not, he's not going to go for that, and he's not pleased with that type of behavior. If we are to have the spirit of preferability, and we're supposed to prefer others over ourselves, and we should prefer our spouse over ourselves at all times. We should give them the better of it. This term, my better half, that is what it should be. You should reflect in that manner. So if you're self-centered, you got to watch self-centered behavior, selfish behavior, because selfish behavior is self-indulgent, and it'll justify poor behavior, and it'll grow. So you got to watch that.
Definitely. So that's one sign that you can be a mean person. Another
Tamara.
sign could be that if you are really controlling in the relationship, always having the last word, always having the first thing to say, always having the last thing to say, always dictating everything, how the marriage should move, all that. If you're controlling, that can also be considered mean, especially. I'm not talking about a personality trait, but just as a vindictive way to say, I'm going to disregard my spouse's feelings and control the situation.
Absolutely. I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm grown. And Tamara made a comment. She said, consistently being mean to each other, you can't do that. You cannot consistently do that. But when you're a controlling person, you want to control the temperament and the temperature and the navigation of the whole situation all the time. And when you're controlling, again, you don't care what the other person feels. You don't care about what the other person's doing. As long as the thing fits like you want it to fit and it goes the way you want it to go, then everything is okay. But if it's not going the way that you want it to go, or the way you feel like is the right way, then you just reject whatever that other person is saying or whatever the other person is feeling. And that is mean, number one. And number two, it can really, again, cause other problems in your relationship, because if you're rejecting a person's feeling, that person doesn't feel validated. That person doesn't feel heard. And ultimately, if they don't feel validated or heard, they do not feel loved. And if they don't feel loved, they may search out love somewhere else.
All right. And then, what would you say, if somebody says, well, I'm not controlling, or if they, what are they looking for to, if I say, if I'm a controlling person, but I don't think that I am, how do I recognize that? How do I recognize that I'm controlling?
Well, one thing that controlling people usually are always people that want to help the situation. In their head, they feel like they're helping the situation. If you always trying to help the situation go the way in your head without asking how the other person wants it to go or how they feel about the situation, but you already come to whatever conclusion that it is for whatever is going on, how that the end result should be, then that's controlling. Even if it's with your children, I have to learn how to make sure that I step back, with my kids, because they're of age now. With our sons, they're of age. And so I have to make sure I'm not being controlling, because I am the type of person that I could be if I did not monitor myself, you know what I'm saying? Or try to be if I didn't monitor myself. So I have to step back with the kids and make sure, okay, what do you want to do? What's your decision? Tell me what it is, and then I'm going to help you do that. And I'm not going to make the decision and then be like, let's do this, and then be mad at you if you don't do what I want you to do.
Right.
That's controlling.
That's controlling. And sometimes we talked about this before, about men and women and how they communicate. Sometimes women will come to their spouse, come to their husband and say, hey, honey, I had a bad day. I'm having this problem at work. I did this, and this. And men, we are fixers. We want to fix everything.
Right.
And so we want to control the situation. And sometimes by giving advice and saying, well, you should do this, you should do that. And if you're always in that place, then your spouse can't communicate with you because you're really not listening. You're controlling the situation, when a lot of times, especially when a woman comes to a man, sometimes they may already have the solution. Y'all so smart. They just want to be able to vent. And so I had to learn how to maybe not give a solution, but listen. Yeah. And that's part of that too, so that you don't control every time, your spouse is bringing their heart to you, but sometimes you just need to listen. Yeah.
It can't be like, it's my way or the highway, or this is what is, because that's mean. Yep, it just is, it's mean, and it's not a good culture to have in your home or in your relationship. Yep. Excuse me. Now, the third thing, you would rather be right than be happy. There's a lot of people like that. Yeah. It's a lot of people like that. Yeah. You want to be the person that's right. I don't care. In the argument, you want to win the argument. You want to be the right person. Like, see, I knew this was going to happen. Or, see, this is what I was saying all along. I told you this was, whatever. You rather be right than to even be happy.
Yeah, and sometimes that is just stubbornness. I mean, I've fallen victim to this. Be like, had an argument or whatever, or refuse to like quickly apologize, because then that's saying, oh, you're weak or whatever, or you made a mistake. No, that's being mean. When you've had an argument with your wife, especially as men, and when you made a mistake, what a woman respects more is that you can apologize, that you can admit that you're wrong. That's where your strength is. Absolutely. When you become stubborn and refuse to apologize or refuse to admit your mistake because you just want to be right, and then have contention in the home and not be happy, that's really a sign of weakness, or immaturity, because you haven't matured to understand that you're going to make mistakes, that you're going to have ups and downs. But when your spouse has brought attention to something that can correct behavior, it's really out of love. Yeah. Just how Jesus corrects us, or God corrects us, because he loves us. Yeah. If I didn't love you, and I would let you walk off a cliff. Yeah. But because I do love you, I'm going to keep you from going off that cliff. Yep. So a lot of time, man, we have to let that stubbornness go. And sometimes when we are wrong, admit it. But women, when we right, give us our props too. Absolutely. Pat us on the back when we are right. And because that's how relationships work.
It is. Certainly people and men and women need that validation. If they are right, they do need that validation. They do need that reassurance that you realize that they got to win, or that they were right in that moment. But humbling yourself and admitting that you were wrong, humbling yourself and apologizing, that goes a long way in relationship. You're not doing anything, constructive, or you're not doing anything to help or bless your relationship if you're being stubborn and won't apologize. Because if you stiff-necked and stubborn, then it causes contention. But if you apologize Like the Bible says, come now, let us reason together. If we come together and we talk about it, oh my gosh, you know what? I'm sorry. Though your sins be as scarlet. You know what I'm saying? That conversation washes that. That conversation, that humility, and that request for forgiveness, that apology, it brings peace and it brings camaraderie into that relationship when you're like, man, you know what? I really didn't have to handle that like that.
Yeah.
I handled that like wrong, and I'm looking at it now, and I'm really sorry that, and I hate when people apologize like this. If I offended you, then I'm sorry. It's obvious, Negro, that you offended me because we having this dumb conversation. Yeah. Don't apologize like that. Your apology should sound like this. You know what? I see that my behavior or how I acted really hurt you, and I am very sorry because that's not my intent. I really didn't mean to do that, and I apologize that I was not paying more attention. I'm sorry that I didn't take into account your feelings, and I know that hurt you, and I know that made you feel some type of way, and for that I'm absolutely sorry, and I hope that I won't do it again. If I do, please forgive me because it's not my intent. But I am definitely going to give it all of my heart's effort to not do that and to transgress in that way. And if you apologize that is that's just better. And it's not mean, because it's mean and ignorant to apologize if I hurt your feelings. If they have you having a conversation, you already hurt their feelings, or you already disappointed them or hurt them or whatever. So, try to get that out of because that's still like, if I did, that's still like not owning responsibility. Own responsibility for if you failed. It's okay. That's why, even with God, we have to repent when we sin. Because you own the fact that you are a chump, but God, you are great. You know what I'm saying? So you have to own the fact that you made a bad decision or you failed in the relationship. And at that particular point, that's where you can come in and have some reconciliation.
And we put up on the graphic when somebody commented, Kenyatta commented, realizing that your husband and wife hold value. Yeah. That's very important in the communication, and not to be mean. If you are mean, and we'll go on to the next comment about always being negative. Mm-hmm. If you are a mean person and always being negative, it means that you don't value your opinion. You don't really value what your spouse brings to the relationship, and that is very, very important, to value your spouse. Mm-hmm. Their thoughts, how they eat, how they drink, every issue of them, because it's important to make sure that they understand how much you value them.
Absolutely, because somebody said, I think we read at some point about that airport test. If you can't drop somebody off at the airport and never, and imagine yourself never seeing that person again and being okay, then you have feeling and you have depth for that person. So you should have some honor and some respect for that person, not just love, but honor and respect for the other person. So the next thing, are you a negative person? Are you a negative Ned? Or are you a negative Nelly? Are you a negative person? A negative person that'll come across as being mean. If somebody says something and you are the first person to shoot it down, and you just talk, you talk with disdain, you talk just negative, you talk harsh. Well, we don't want to do. Why would I want that? I don't like that. Why would you wear that? You look dumb. Right. Yeah. Will you shut up?
And that's very important, and that especially when communicating with spouses. But
absolutely.
But that can also be for your family.
Oh, yeah,
anybody
sure.
in your family, your children.
Yeah.
Your parents. Anybody that you talk negative to, or even like our next one, talking too much to. Mm-hmm. And just never let the other person express themselves, and then when they do finally get to say something, you're always negative. Like you said, always speaking down. Mm-hmm. Those are mean traits.
Absolutely.
And repetitive mean traits are going to cause issues in your relationship.
And it does not create a culture of not only camaraderie, but confidant. You can't be a confidant with somebody who if you share your innermost feeling and your innermost dream, and that person's like, oh, that's stupid. Why would you do that? Or why would you make that kind of decision? See, you know what I'm saying? You don't think before you just say something, or whatever it is. You're saying negative things. They can't feel comfortable and free telling you places where they failed. Yeah. They can't feel comfortable and free telling you places where they want to grow, what they're dreaming. So you can't be that person's confidant. And in every relationship, that is the ultimate goal, for you to be that person. That's your confidant. Your confidant is beyond friends, lovers, your ride or die. It's beyond that. That means I'm pouring out everything that's in me into you. I'm sharing everything about me with you.
Yeah. I like what you said. Confidant, to be a confidant, you have to be able to express and to share your failures and be able to know that you can do that in a safe place.
Absolutely. That the person ain't going to walk off and leave you.
Right. When we're counseling and when we're coaching people, being able, first of all, to admit your failure, to when you get a relationship, when you can share your most inner feelings, your failures, your success, your hurts, your thoughts, with that person that you share your bed with, that you love, that you immensely, when you get to that point, then that's when you know that you're at the confident level. And if you are a mean person, they're not going to want to share their failures or their concerns, and then they're going to end up building a fence around themselves.
Absolutely.
Or a wall, and then you're going to wonder and look around, well, how come I can't communicate? How come I can't get in? How come you're not talking to me? Or how come you're starting to look other places for something that I could give you that I want? Well, maybe because you hadn't had that level of confidence, and they haven't been able to share because you've been too negative or you talk too much.
Right, that's right. The next one is you talk too much. And we'll make that one short because it's really about being negative. You doing all the talking all the time and you're not listening. In every relationship, you got to be able to listen, even if it's to your children. And one of the things my first lady says something, when she talks about parenting, she'll say, I can tell you up to whatever age her oldest child is. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the same thing. I used to laugh, and giggle, not laugh at her, but I just would chuckle, be like, okay, she could tell me up to, but now I get it because you just, people and your children will progress and they will grow. And, you only know what you know up until that point. Like I can only tell you up until 23 years of marriage.
Right. I
can't tell you 35 years of marriage because I don't know 35 yet, but I plan to know 35 years and 45 years and 50 years. Mm-hmm. I plan to know where we are at that point, and I'll be able to share at that point. But right now I can only share up to 23 in some days. Right. If you're talking too much and you're not listening, and like I said, it to your children or to your spouse or to whomever is important to you, you got to learn to hush, because people that talk too much, that can be construed as mean also, because you're not listening to nothing I'm saying. You're not listening to me. You're not listening to me. Now it goes both ways. You got to listen and then you got to be heard.
Yeah.
But it goes both ways.
Definitely. Just looking, we got a few things going. A lot of people are commenting, and definitely we continue to comment. We're trying to address all your comments. We are seeing them. Another thing, as far as being a mean person, and our lesson tonight is don't be cruel, is that you don't want to ever think that your spouse owes you something, especially if you're consistently doing that. That'll be perceived as mean, being like, well. Even when you are dealing in the issue of forgiveness, you forgive for yourself, really,
right?
But if you forgive a mistake or a offense that your spouse has done, and then you feel that you make them feel like they owe you that forgiveness, right. That's going to cause a relationship break, a relationship rift, and the person that you're portraying that on is going to they'll be like, I don't want to deal with you. You're mean, right. Because you're making them feel like they owe you, like you owe them something because, you forgave them,
right,
or whatever.
Or right, you owe me. You owe me because I take care of you. You owe me because I go to work. You owe me because I supported your stupid decision to do whatever. You owe me because I'm always doing this. No. You serve and you love your spouse because that's what you chose to do.
Yeah.
You chose to marry that person.
Example, blended families. Oh, you
Yeah.
owe me because I put your kid through college. That wasn't mine, or something like that. No, when you made that decision to marry that person, you know what they had when they were coming in.
Yep.
And because of love, and because of sacrifice, it's not what you owe, but that's what you're supposed to do. That's
And I
your
want to
right.
interject here too, because a lot of times people talk about that, especially with blended families, where you knew what you were getting into, or this person, you did, but you didn't know what that entailed. And I get that a lot of times when we talk to people, and they're like, "Well, I didn't know that this person's ex was gonna be crazy and blah blah blah, or that crazy, or that kid was gonna grow up and act like a fool, or whatever the case is." You got to, have grace. Yeah. You got to have grace for growth, and grace for understanding, and grace for when you do find things out. You got to have love and grace and understanding, and making sure that that you're not just, like I said, just not talking too much, and you're not overdoing it, but you're listening and doing all of those things. And also, if you're a mean person, if you never met a victim card that you did not play, you always playing the victim. Always somebody doing something to you.
Yeah, not playing a race card, but
No,
playing the
victim card.
Woe is me all the time.
All the time.
And you're like, well, how does that portray me as mean? Because, I feel like I'm playing the victim. Well, I'm trying to get the attention. Well, what happened is it's going back to number 2. You're trying to be controlling.
Absolutely.
You're trying to be self-centered.
You're narcissistic is what you are.
Yep.
You got to deal with yourself.
Yeah, that's like, well, if I go out and spend all the money, and then I come back and blame you for taking me to
getting on my nerves.
Right. I'm like, you the one that went out and gambled all the money, or
Right.
spent all the money, or whatever, and then you turn around, and people can be good at that, especially when you've been in a relationship and you know what pulls the other person's heartstrings.
Yes.
And that's
Or
the
pushes
part,
their buttons.
or pushes their button, and that is the part where you have contention, and you can be mean because you are really going back to being controlling, and really going back to making it all about me instead of all about him.
Right. So you definitely don't want to, playing the victim card or playing the victim all the time. It can definitely be construed as being mean, because that's not fair. To always saying the reason that you made some bad choice was because of somebody else. That's not being responsible for your own actions. You can only be responsible for your own self. God is never going to ask you what somebody else did. He's never going to ask you, because he already know what they did. He wants to know what you did and how you reacted, and your justification for what it is that you did. You got to be responsible for you. And I don't care how old you are, how young you are, or who, what the circumstances are. You are responsible for your own actions. And just because somebody else did something, like the old saying is, 2 wrongs don't make a right. It never will equal a right. So you have to still be right, even if someone else is wrong, and not in the number 3 thing that you got to be right all the time. But you have to do right, not be right. Because sometimes it's better to do right. Ooh, that'll preach, than be right. That's powerful.
That's very good.
I'm gonna pat myself on the back.
You
Do right instead of be right. All right. So
so you don't want to be like you can't get right.
Exactly. You can't get right. All right. So the next thing that we want to talk about is we talked about, you said that your spouse making your spouse feel like they owe you something. Your spouse certainly doesn't owe you anything. That you serve your spouse because that's what you chose to do. And everything in your relationship, everything that happens is always an extreme, and you never get any help doing anything. Now, there are some cases where, one spouse does far more than the other as far as like household things, as far as maybe chores, as far as maybe work or income. There are scenarios and things like that, but a person that's being mean is when that situation is really not true. That, everything is just so over the top, and, they never get any help with anything. It's all about me. It's all me. And like I said, there are some situations, I know that there's many mothers it get very little help in the house. They take care of all the kids, and especially shout out and hats off to all the mothers that's out there sitting there with the homeschool, and the fathers too. But it's mostly usually, you know, the moms are sitting there helping with the homeschool and making sure that the children are, you know, doing what they need to do. But like I said, you know, I'm glad that mine are in college because my kids will be repeating whatever grade that they would be in right now. So anyways, because I would be a terrible homeschool parent. Terrible. I know my limitations. But anyways, you know, making sure that, you know, everything is not to the extreme. Everything is not to the 10th degree. Everything is not all about me and, you know, making me snap you up because it's all about me.
Right. So how do we fix being a mean person? So what are some fixes, or what are some ways to address when we feel, or our spouse has called us and said, hey, you know what, in certain issues or certain times I felt that you've been mean.
Yeah.
You know, how do we address that? So how do we not be a mean person in relationships?
Well, I think one of the things that we can do to not be a mean person is, first, you have to have self-examination. You know, are you saying things, or you can ask your spouse, do you think I'm mean? Now, if they laugh and don't say nothing, or if they laugh and keep stirring the soup, you know, already know you mean. Right. You know what I'm saying? You mean. You're a mean person, or you're coming across as mean. But you know, asking is definitely one thing, and then you got to really look within yourself. Right. And if you find yourself in any of these statements that we made, you know, you got to make sure, because knowing is half the battle. Good. Knowing is half the battle. And, you know, even in AA, they say, you know, once you admit you're an alcoholic, that's your first step. Yeah. Once you admit that you're a meanie, that is your first step. You know, because we got to look at ourselves within the reflection of God, you know what I'm saying, and the Word of God.
Right. And even when we talk about relationship as God being, you know, the Trinity, Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost, it's still the same in marriage. So there's three. There's you, your spouse, and Christ. Right. But, and then really when you look at that, you're still one. So a lot of times maturity comes with knowing that the way you treat your spouse is really a reflection of how you treat yourself. And especially with men and how their wife reacts. If your wife is bitter, angry, you know, or experiencing some things, a lot of times it's a reflection of how you treat her. Yep. So why would you be mean to yourself? You don't get up in the morning and hit yourself in the face. You don't get up yourself in the morning and verbally abuse yourself. You put on your clothes, you smell good, you do all the things to prepare. So a mean person doesn't take account that, especially in marriage, that your spouse was one. You and your spouse are one. So the way that you are treating them, what they push back or what they give you is usually, most of the time, is a reflection of what that you have given them. Absolutely. So a lot of times, if there is behavior that your spouse is exhibiting of being mean, make sure that you have made yourself a self-examination to make sure that you're not giving them that ammunition or making them feel that way because they're reacting to what you're giving them.
Absolutely. There's a scripture in the Bible, and I can't remember where it is because I'm not a great address remember, but it talks about Christ, and he talks about the bride and the body of Christ as his bride, and that it says he presents unto himself a church without a spot or a wrinkle, meaning that's the person, that's the church. He made the church what it is. But you as a man makes the bride, your bride, what it is. You present her, you make her without a spot or a wrinkle. And let's just go here if we want to, you know, you can't, if that's too deep for you. Beyonce said in her Lemonade, she said, put me back together like you tore me in two, something like that. But meaning that you had the power to tear me up, but you also have the power to put me back together. And she was talking about her husband. So you have the power to rebuild what you have torn down. Yeah. You have the power and the ability. So you have to exercise that ability. You have to exercise that power by showing kindness. And then also it's really about communication. What kind of love does your spouse need? What kind of love does your spouse desire? Like, I don't know why I've been thinking about, like, as I'm talking about this lesson tonight, and just as I was thinking about the lesson earlier, all these songs come to my head. Like that song, what is this song? Need a little tenderness. If that person needs some tenderness, give them tenderness.
Right.
You know what I mean? You got to be able to go through and give that spouse, love and kindness, and you got to be able to look inwardly, and find places where you can show kindness.
Right. And in marriage, in relationships and marriage especially, nothing is that you establish is built in a day.
Yeah.
If you have to plant a seed to get some corn, you have to plant it, you have to water it, you have to till it. To build a house, you have to make the designs, you have to put in the nails and all that. To have a successful marriage, you have to build on it. And it's something that you have to work on every day.
Yep.
And so you have to make sure that you are building. You should be building, you should be establishing something every day.
Yes, you should.
And like when you talked about the broken pieces, even when broken marriages happen or when things get broken in a marriage, the thing that is most important is that you are willing to put the effort in to fix it. And that you are willing, because that you may want to fix it, but it's going to be difficult. But if you can get past the laziness and not wanting to fix something putting the work in to fix it, then you can fix broken pieces.
Absolutely.
And Christ, God is a mender of broken hearts.
Yeah.
But you still have to have some work to put into it, especially if you've been offended or you're an offender. But if you are willing to work at it, you can fix it.
Absolutely. It takes work. It takes and some breaks, some fractures, some things take a little bit more work than others. But if you put the work in, you will get the reward out of it. You really, really will. And it's not in switching partners. It's not in, I'm going to go find me somebody else that's doing. It's really not in all that, because you're going to take you along with it. You know what I'm saying? Wherever you're going, if you go with somebody else, you're going to take your special self right on over there with that other person.
Indeed.
So you're going to surface at some point. You're going to surface because, you got that period where you put your best foot forward, but then you're going to show up. And so whatever is in you, it's going to come out. So, you want to make sure that you are looking at within yourself, finding ways that you can show kindness, finding ways to look at yourself through the Word of God. And the biggest way that you can find out if you're mean at how to be nicer is you look at yourself through the eyes of grace. If God has forgiven you and you know that really you should be really on the path of destruction, but God showed you grace, and he gave you graciousness and showed you kindness and gave you restoration, and he gave you breath and life and blessings and health and strength and a reasonable portion of all of these things, provision. You are not, out. You may have been down, you may be bent, but you're not broken. You know what I'm saying? If God is giving you all of these things, you have to look through the eyes of grace and say, I don't deserve God's grace and his goodness, but he is kind to me every day. And even if that other person doesn't deserve your kindness, even if they are an offender, you can draw more bees with honey than you can with vinegar. Show kindness. You reap what you sow.
Yeah, that's true. And a lot of times we don't want to give grace because we don't, a lot of times we haven't experienced it. But when you bring it back to the concept that God didn't cut you off, when we were out there wilding out, when we were out there sinning, when we were out of his will, we are able to receive his grace. We need to also give that grace to our spouse, to our children, to our parents, to anyone that we're in relationship with. But especially in marriage, if you give grace to your spouse, you're able to be in it for the long haul.
Absolutely. And enjoy it.
And enjoy it. So, hey, we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, we are live every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But continue to follow us on Instagram, WhatsApp Entertainment, subscribe to us on WhatsApp video on YouTube. And
Yeah.
then, we're starting to do our Love in 60 Seconds. Usually during the week, we have something good to say. So hopefully you've been enjoying that.
Yeah.
We appreciate you guys communicating and chatting with us and
Yes.
following us and all that. So continue to DM us.
Yeah.
Continue to give us ideas to talk about. Continue to chat with us. But please share this and like this and share it with somebody. And we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah.
So this has been Frederick and Jean Watts, and this Love in 60 Seconds.
Good night,
All right,
everybody.
Bye-bye. Well, guys, we have to wrap it up this evening. We really hope that you've enjoyed our conversation.
Yes, this conversation has been amazing, and we want you to tune in again next time so that we can discuss more of these amazing topics and these topics of interest. Then don't forget to DM us, contact us, reach out to us, and we will definitely respond back.
This has been Love in 60 Seconds. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
All right, good night, everybody.
60.